Churchill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to split my time with my colleague from Rimouski, Nejet, Témiscouata, Les Basques. Mr. Speaker, we are here to debate an issue that has gripped Canadians over the last number of weeks. We in the NDP are here to propose an alternative way forward to this Conservatives' destructive agenda when it comes to Canada Post. A few short weeks ago, this Conservative government supported Canada Post's announcement in taking an axe to our long-treasured postal service and making Canada the only G7 country to eliminate home delivery of mail. Today, I am proud of our NDP motion that we have put forward. It is clear that we are on the side of Canadians from coast to coast to coast who want to uphold our postal service. But besides us putting forward an alternative vision, this motion is a test. It's a test for the Conservatives, a test to see if they are on the side of a majority of Canadians. It is a test for Conservative members of Parliament who represent urban centres where citizens depend on home delivery. It is a test for Conservative members of Parliament who represent rural areas to see if they will stand up for their rural communities and oppose cuts to rural post offices. Mr. Speaker, Canadians will be watching this debate today. They are watching this debate today, and Canadians will be watching closely how members of this Conservative government will be voting on this motion. What is clear from today's debate and what we've seen from this Conservative government over the last number of weeks is the ultimate hypocrisy of this situation. Now, we've heard some comments today about Canada Post's reasoning when it comes to this announcement. Well, Mr. Speaker, what we've also heard is that in facing a challenge, a financial challenge, Canada Post has not done what anyone, certainly running a business or even in government, would do when facing a crisis, which is to come together and try and find a solution. We've heard from organization after organization, whether it's the Union of Postal Workers or representatives of municipalities or people from the disabilities communities or seniors organizations, that none of them were consulted by Canada Post to try and find ways forward to make our postal service viable. This seems illogical to me, Mr. Speaker. One knows that when you face a situation like that and you try and find a solution, I mean, it happens in our communities all the time. The government engages in these kinds of challenges. You bring people together, but that is not what Canada Post did. You also look at alternatives, ways to create revenue that build on a long-term plan for this service. And Canada Post did not do that either. Yes, Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives did its homework. And what they did is they looked beyond Canada's borders, something that this government has trouble doing, and they looked at models of postal banking that support people's banking needs, but also their postal needs. And they looked at ways in which other countries do it, countries that we look to for all sorts of other advice and ideas, New Zealand, Italy, countries that we look to for good ideas on a regular basis. And yet Canada Post did not look at alternatives and has not looked at alternatives that could help make this service not just viable, but continue to be prosperous. So, Mr. Speaker, it is not by accident that so many Canadians consider this to be a manufactured crisis in many ways. One that is extremely hypocritical, and one where it is easy to ask the question, is Canada Post's ultimate goal to privatize, and is this government's ultimate goal to support the privatization of Canada Post? Mr. Speaker, as the Member of Parliament for Churchill, over the last number of weeks I've heard from many constituents. I've received hundreds of letters. Many people have signed our petition. People have walked into our office, have called me at home to talk to me about their concern. Some of our communities do enjoy home delivery. And I'll explain why it's so essential that it continues. Flin Flon, one of those communities, was founded in 1927. It is built on the Canadian Shield. It's a community that has many seniors that have decided to stay in northern Manitoba, stay close to their families, people with mobility issues. It has infrastructure that is challenged in terms of the needs of the 21st century and the growth of the community. It is a community where people cannot imagine where community post boxes could possibly go. Flin Flon a couple years ago got an award for having the busiest post office in its region and for the population it serves. And yet, instead of supporting a community like Flin Flon and the people that need the postal service, not only do we have this announcement of eliminating home delivery, but Flin Flon has also been told that it might lose its storefront. And to add insult to injury, Flin Flon was also told that the storefront was going to be moved to a business address that doesn't exist in a building that sits empty, that is owned by a landlord who's never even heard from Canada Post. So you'll forgive me, Mr. Speaker, as a member of Parliament for this community, when I wonder, along with so many other people in Flin Flon, what kind of logic drives Canada Post's agenda on the macro level and on the micro level? Because certainly it doesn't seem to be anywhere. Thompson, a community established in 1956, a community that also has infrastructure challenges, where we can't envision for the majority of community where any new postal developments could take place. Also a community, like many in the north, that suffers from extreme cold. Mr. Speaker, yesterday morning when I left my house, it was -47 with the wind chill. Now that cold doesn't stop Rhonda or Jen or Wendy or Geraldine or Tara from doing their job day in and day out. But what that cold would mean would be that people, not just seniors, not just people with disabilities, not just people with young families, but people aren't able to just take a stroll down to the community post box and get their mail. Or maybe even hop in a car, which often won't work in -47, and I accept the fact that many people across haven't the faintest clue what -47 in northern Manitoba with howling wind might feel like. It's just not a reality. But instead of listening to these communities and the people from these communities, Mr. Speaker, Canada Post has rammed through an agenda that not only doesn't serve the interests of our people, but makes their lives difficult, and for a service that they have paid for. Mr. Speaker, this announcement also will have a disproportionate impact on Canadian women. According to the CCPA, we know that 95% of the employees that work at Canada Post are women. This draws attention to the fact that the decimation of Canada Post will disproportionately affect them. In northern and rural regions like the ones I represent, Canada Post jobs that women have are some of the best jobs that women can have in our communities. They are secure with pensions and benefits, and they support families and communities. We also know that cuts to the public sector always hurt women and exacerbate their social and economic inequality. It bears pointing out, Mr. Speaker, that the gender gap in Canada is alive and well. Women earn 72 cents for every dollar earned by men in this country, and this statistic has barely changed in 40 years. All of this conspires to damage women's equality and the overall social fabric of this country. Job cuts and privatization in the public sector hit women of color, women with disabilities, women from immigrant backgrounds, and Aboriginal women the hardest. These women are often the last hired and the first to be let go, as we know from the Public Sector Employees Union. Conservatives have broken their promise to protect Canadian communities, whether they are northern, rural, or urban. And Canadians will be watching how they vote today. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, let's bring this debate back to where it counts, to our communities, to the understanding that Canada Post belongs to Canadians. It belongs to my generation that depends on this service, my parents who helped build this service, our grandparents and people before us that helped create the Canada Post we have today. It is an integral part of our community. Postal workers connect us. They keep an eye on us. They make sure we have the information, the goods, the services that we need. Mr. Speaker, this is a test where Canadians will know where Conservatives stand, on their side or on the side of the CEOs and those that want to privatize our most essential services. Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve better. They deserve to protect our Canada Post. Thank you.